As a finance professional in a disrupted business landscape, what does it take to be in demand? What does it take to attract great paying international roles? If you're an ICANN member, it'll just take one exam. That's all it takes to complete the globally recognized CIMA professional qualification and the internationally respected CGMA designation. As a CIMA member and a CGMA designation holder, employers will look at you as a finance professional, constantly acquiring new skills to add value to the business. That's why they'll be willing to pay premium to hire and retain you. If you have 5 years of relevant experience and are an ICANN member, you can directly sit for the final exam of the CIMA Professional Qualification, the Strategic Case Study Exam. Start studying the CIMA Professional Qualification. Prepare to make an impact.
Good evening, our professional colleagues, friends of the Institute, and student members of the Institute. Welcome you to another episode of ICANN on Air, a great platform for learning powered by our Noble Institute, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. I'm your host for today, Tosin Akinwumi, FCA. Please inform your colleagues and friends that the show ICANN on Air has commenced and that they can be part of this show on ICANN Facebook page and ICANN YouTube channel. And today, Thursday, 28th March, year 2024, we shall be talking on another contemporary topic, preventing the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. And I have here with me in the studio a distinguished professor of economics, an eminent scholar, a past president of the Federation of Bankers of Nigeria, Professor Segun Ajibola. Sit and relax. Tell your friends to tell your friends and to tell other colleagues to be part of this show, ICANN on Air, today, as we bring unto you discussions on preventing the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. I'll be right back with my guest on the show. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
As a finance professional in a disrupted business landscape, what does it take to be in demand? What does it take to attract great paying international roles? If you're an ICANN member, it'll just take one exam. That's all it takes to complete the globally recognized CIMA professional qualification and the internationally respected CGMA designation. As a CIMA member and a CGMA designation holder, employers will look at you as a finance professional, constantly acquiring new skills to add value to the business. That's why they'll be willing to pay premium to hire and retain you. If you have 5 years of relevant experience and are an ICANN member, you can directly sit for the final exam of the CIMA Professional Qualification, the Strategic Case Study Exam. Start studying the CIMA Professional Qualification. Prepare to make an impact.
Yes, you are welcome back to ICANN on Air. And we have another episode today. We'll be talking on preventing the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. I have in the studio today our own professor of economics and also the past president of CIBN, Professor Segun Ajibola. Professor, you are welcome to ICANN on Air. And it is our pleasure to have you on the show today, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, all.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly take the brief profile of our guest on the show today, Professor Segun Ajibola. Professor Segun Ajibola holds a first-class BSc degree in economics in 1983, MSc economics in 1986, and a PhD in economics in 2011, with specialization in monetary economics, all from University of Ife, now known as Obafemi Awolowo University. He also bagged an LLB from University of Lagos in 2001, a PL in 2003, He is a chartered banker, of course, a fellow of that institute. He is also a chartered tax practitioner, fellow member of CIBN, and a certified UK accredited mediator. He is a certified risk manager of Risk Management Association of Nigeria. Professor Ajibola, like I said, is a fellow of CIBN and the 19th president and chairman of council of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. He is a fellow of the Institute of Credit Administration, fellow of the Enterprise Risk Management, Professionals of Nigeria, fellow, Institute of Directors of Nigeria, fellow and patron, Association of Forensic Accounting Researchers, FFAR, life member, Nigerian Economic Society, senior associate member, Chartered Risk Management Institute, Nigeria, fellow, CIBN, and also member, Nigerian Bar Association, Lagos branch. That is the brief profile of our guest on the show today, Professor Segun Ajibola. And today, we're speaking on the topic, preventing the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. So our audience, because you know, as we're on the show, our guest is already on seat. Send in your questions on that topic. And I promise you, we will be taking your questions to our guest today. Professor, let us start this way. The strength of a nation's currency says a lot about the nation's economic stability and resilience. And having you, an erudite scholar, on this show today will certainly grant our global viewers the opportunity to learn and to share a lot from your depth of intellectual prowess, skills, and experiences. What exactly does it mean to have a strong national currency? And what are the general features that determine the strength of a nation's currency?
Yeah, thank you very much. A strong national currency reflects the strength of an economy. And when a currency is said to be strong, it has an advantage in terms of negotiation of terms of trade with its numerous trading partners. A strong currency means that it is a good store of value. A strong currency must enjoy the respect of the international community. A strong currency must be a currency that enjoys the confidence of its nationals. So it's a currency that serves as a legal tender without looking elsewhere within that jurisdiction. A strong currency must also attract foreign investors, foreign investments. A strong currency must be capable of accumulating foreign exchange reserves. So a strong currency must also give indications of a strong economy. In other words, a currency cannot be strong within a weak economy. So when we look at all this together, any currency that enjoys that is a strong currency. And when we talk about hard currency, convertible currency, and we refer to them as strong currencies, if you look at each one of them, they enjoy all these features and characteristics that we've talked about. A country that is holding a currency and it stands strong as a legal tender, that country negotiates very good terms of trade with the rest of the world. That currency enjoys the patronage of other countries of the world. That country attracts investors of all kinds to its jurisdiction. So when we look at all this, we refer to that currency as a strong currency.
Thank you very much, my professor. I think we are just starting, but the way you actually took the first question actually confirmed that we have the right guest on the show today. Now, the next question, as a professor of economics, we need you to take us to the classroom and explain some concepts of currency. So I would like to ask you, explain further to us the concept of currency depreciation, currency devaluation, and currency redenomination. Explain to us the difference between these three concepts: currency devaluation, currency depreciation, and currency redenomination.
Okay, first, currency devaluation is intentional. It's a country, authorities, or forces beyond the control of that jurisdiction that compares currency devaluation. For example, international financial institutions, creditor nations, be it Paris Club, London Club, and co-creditor financial institutions, can compel a country to devalue its currency. And the argument is simple. If a country is so vulnerable to the rest of the world, imports so much from the rest of the world, and exports little to the rest of the world, it is often assumed that it is because the currency of such a country is overvalued. So import is cheap and export is expensive. So authorities may now compel such a country to devalue its currency. So it is a deliberate attempt to reduce the value of a currency. One, to make import more expensive so that the economy will no longer be as vulnerable in terms of importation from the rest of the world. And to also encourage export, because the rest of the world will now see what is being exported outside that country as cheaper than before. Those are the arguments in favor of devaluation. So it is a decision that you take deliberately, either taken by authority within that jurisdiction, or it's a decision that is forced on the authorities within that jurisdiction. That is devaluation. Depreciation is a result of forces of demand and supply. When a currency is playing in the market over there, and perhaps that jurisdiction is running what we call a flexible foreign exchange regime, the forces of demand and supply will determine the exchange rate at any point in time. So if demand outweighs supply, which may be the case depending on the peculiarities of such an economy, that currency will depreciate. So it's a result of market forces, what we usually refer to as invisible hand. So when your economy is doing badly compared with the rest of the world, your currency is bound to depreciate unless you want to force what is called fixed exchange regime, and you artificially fix the rate through executive fiat. But when left to the forces of demand and supply, it will either appreciate or depreciate. So when you demand more of foreign currencies than you generate, your currency by forces of demand and supply, by market forces, will depreciate. So it is something that happens due to forces in the market. Redenomination, at times when currency rates are becoming unwieldy and you start quoting thousands upon thousands per unit of another currency. A good example used to be Zimbabwe, when at a time $1 was equal to about 75,000 Zimbabwe dollar. I mean, that figure looks intimidating. So somebody may now want to redenominate and say that every 50,000 units of that currency now becomes 1 unit. It happened in Ghana some 20 years back, I think. Some 20 years back. So if today now Nigeria is talking about redenomination, we can say, oh, look, this 1,000 naira to a dollar is not neat. So everybody that holds 1,000 naira, you now hold 1 naira, and that 1 naira is equal to $1. That is redenomination. In other words, we redefine the number of units of a particular currency that will exchange for another currency. That's redenomination. So the three of them, they mean different things entirely. But if you now ask me, the implication of such concepts for a country like Nigeria, when we talk about devaluation, the argument from the West, the textbook argument will not hold water. Why? Because if we devalue, as of today, our major source of foreign exchange earnings is oil, either in terms of volume or in terms of price. Those decisions are taken by forces outside our own environment. They are taken at the global oil market, usually by OPEC, for OPEC members. So if we devalue, it won't change anything. It will not affect our volume, it will not affect the price. So we can only target maybe about 10-20% of sources of our foreign exchange earnings for that argument to hold water, which may not be that significant. And to say that import will become more expensive if we devalue, what do we import? Most times we import essentials. We import things that we cannot do away with. As of today, if we can still not feed ourselves and we import food, it doesn't matter what is the exchange rate, we still have to feed. Exactly. We need medical, we need spare parts, we need plant and machinery, we need some other essential things. So devaluation may not actually reduce the volume of import because we don't have local substitutes. So that is the problem with the issue of devaluation. Now we are experiencing depreciation now because Naira was floated less than a year ago. So forces of demand and supply compel depreciation of our currency, Naira. So that is what we are experiencing now because the market is playing more prominent role in the determination of our exchange rate than before. So that is why we are experiencing depreciation. We've not talked about redenomination. The last I could remember about that was when Professor Soludo was the CBN governor. So redenomination has not taken center stage in the foreign exchange management of Nigeria up to today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor, for the clarification of those concepts and for going further to tell us of the implications of those concepts even around the world. Moving further, the Nigerian currency is Naira, of course, and it is believed that the Naira is very sick and suffering as of today. As someone who has almost seen it all, what exactly is the Nigerian Naira suffering from? And how did it get so badly stung or infected in the first place?
Yes, thank you. If we say it's sick, we may not be far from the truth. I mean, if we look at the historical background to Naira, in the 1970s, Naira was at worst, about 1.5 Naira, 1 Naira 50 kobo, there about 1 Naira 70 at worst to $1. So from 1973 to about 1984, 85, 86, Naira was trailing at less than 2 Naira to $1. So if we are now talking about the same Naira calling 1,000, 1,003, 1,005 to the same US dollar. So it may not be an overstatement to say that the Naira is sick. But that sickness did not start today. The sickness actually started in the 1970s when we earned so much as a country in petrodollars and we failed to diversify this economy. Rather than changing and strengthening our productive capacity, we changed our consumption patterns. And we started the importation of anything anybody could think of. Conspicuous consumption habits. We started living larger than life. So we missed that opportunity of setting this economy on an industrial space. We failed to improve on the productive capacity. Most of the lofty ideas in the Third National Development Plan, 1975 to 1980, that will have changed the face of our economy, we could not see through. So when that happened, we remained an import-dependent economy. Import-dependent on almost everything. So social adjustment program came, the story remained. And you will agree with me that till this morning, we are still dependent on almost everything. We've tried, look at the number of industrial policies that we've tried in this country, national development plans. Still, we are exposed to the rest of the world. We are so vulnerable in terms of importation of everything. So our appetite for import continues to grow. And when your appetite for import continues to grow, it bounces on your currency. So with our demand being insatiable and supply from a monolithic product, oil, of course, the sickness got worse. So that problem has been with us for long. And that is why the fundamentals of what gives strength to a currency must be addressed for that sickness to be healed. So we import so much into this environment and we export almost nothing. So that at the end of the day, we don't have factors that could help our economy to be productive. So that is the problem that we have as of today, that we have so much in terms of what we import into the country and all the items that I've mentioned before. Basic necessities, food, shelter, clothing, medicals, spare parts, and other kind of things that we import from the rest of the world. So that puts a lot of pressure on Naira. And we don't have sources of a supply of dollar to the economy, except that monolithic source. Therefore, demand continues to outstrip supply. And that is what has driven or dragged us to where we are as of today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. I'm afraid you may end up changing me to an economist after this program because of those terminologies and jargons I get from you. Conspicuous consumption habits. That's a good one. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
I give it to you as a professor. Now going straight into the topic and going deep into the topic. In the past 1 year, the Naira depreciation against the dollar caused huge increase in the prices of goods and services, which you earlier mentioned. However, in the past 1 month or so, the Naira has shown some remarkable appreciation against the dollar. But yet, prices of goods and services are yet to commensurately come down, if at all anything has come down. Please, what is responsible for the prices of goods and services not coming down, despite the fact that we are witnessing appreciation of the Naira against the dollar?
Yeah, there are three main reasons why prices may behave like this. One is what economists refer to as the sticky nature of prices. Prices are sticky downward. The moment they go up, it's like going up at the speed of maybe 100 kilometers per hour and coming back at the speed of 10 kilometers per hour. Naturally, that is how prices behave. And unfortunately, maybe it's in human psychology. And it's not only in Naira, it's not only in all these prices. Just imagine how our petroleum marketers behave. The moment it is announced that there's a hike in price, the next minute, get to the petrol station, you pay the current price. But when it is announced that prices are coming down, they will tell you they are still waiting for instruction. That's human psychology. Prices are ticking downward. The second reason is that Businesses work on what is referred to as replacement cost, not purchase price. If a businessman, somebody who is into business of automobile, for example, buys his goods, maybe per unit, at 20 naira, 20 million, 20 million. You know, if he's selling at 25, he will have made a good profit. But the market is now telling him that if you want to replace the stock in your showroom, it will cost you 30 million. He won't sell at 25 million. He'll be looking at 30 million because he wants to sell and go and restock. So most businesses behave like this. So the prices we are seeing outside there, they are replacement costs. Because if you don't play along with that concept, you will be out of business. Your stock will dry up. So that's another thing. Thirdly, when policies, initiatives are introduced to combat prices, to combat inflation, that's what we call policy lag and impact lag. You may introduce that policy today. The cycle may take 3 months for the impact to be felt because it will move from one level to the other. It will influence one thing that will influence another thing that will influence another thing. So that the policy you introduced last month, you may not have the impact until another 2 months, making 3 months altogether. So policy lag, impact lag, delays the impact and the effects of certain policies. So some of the policies that we are saying, we are reducing prices of this and that. Somebody was asking me if they have reduced the price of this or that, or if dollar has come down in the last couple of weeks. What of my stock that I bought when dollar was 1,006, 1,007? Will I now be pricing it at 1,300? So these are some of the distortions and dislocations in the pricing system that make the issue a bit complex. So when we see good policies, lofty ideas to combat certain issues, economic challenges, we may not see the impact immediately. And I think that is what is playing out as of today. If the introduction and implementation of those policies are consistent, and there's no U-turn, and there's no policy somersault, the impact will still come, but will not be immediate.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. We pray and we hope there will not be policy somersault, just you have just mentioned. And now, Prof, around September 2021, you have been quoted to have said in a TV show that an average Nigerian could feed with a sum of 500 naira per meal because the naira was still strong as at that time. If I may ask, are you still standing on the same position as at today, 28th March 2024? If yes, what are your justifications? And if no, why the reason for your answer?
Yeah, thank you very much. It was NTA morning show, and we were trying to look at two things there: whether naira was overvalued or whether naira was undervalued. So the issue then was, what's the local strength of naira compare with the value being attached to naira outside there? Let's say UK, let's say US. And I said, as at that time, in my own university, Babcock University, a plate of food was 400 naira. And I could barely finish that plate, 400 naira. So, as at that time, relatively, naira was still strong. That if an average Nigeria, and who is an average Nigeria? An average Nigeria that is struggling to eke out a living below the sub, because we are told that about 60% of our population live below the poverty line. That's an average Nigeria. That if an average Nigeria could grab 500 naira, how much was a loaf of bread then? If you enter a booker, 2-3 ball. I think one ball of a gari of eba was 15 naira then. Me personally, I won't finish more than I won't take more than maybe 2-3 of that. So with 500 naira, you will feed per meal as at 2021. That's one. Based on the strength of the naira and what naira could command in terms of real value, goods and services in Nigeria as at 2021. That argument extends to what is often referred to as purchasing power parity in economics. When there is confusion about or uncertainties, not confusion, when there are uncertainties about the real value of a currency, vis-a-vis another currency, economics refer to the purchasing power parity. Simply put, even to non-economics, even to non-literate, let me explain what that means. How much can I buy a tuber of yam in Lagos? If I can buy it for, say, maybe as at now, 2,000 naira, the same tuber of yam, how much will it cost me in a mall in London? If it will cost me 5 or 3 pounds or so, then the real value of my currency is 2,000 naira to 3 pounds. If on the street of New York, the same tuber of yam will cost $5 or $6, then and I'm buying it for 1,005 or so, then the real value of my currency is 1,500 naira to $5. That's purchasing power parity. So the whole argument then was naira was strong locally, but very weak outside there. So there was a disconnect between the real value of naira locally and the value of naira outside there. That was the argument. Then the argument extends to, if an African Nigeria could feed 500 naira per meal with some fraudulent bloggers upturned and twisted the story to say that Ajibola said 500 naira per day. And I had to refer them to the recordings of NTA. Visit NTA platform. You see what we said live, 500 naira per meal. That even for minimum wage in Nigeria, at 500 naira per meal, that's 1,500 per day. Multiplied by 30, 45 million. And 45,000 naira. That's the minimum for an African Nigeria to feed. So that even at the minimum wage there, it wasn't okay. I would say that as of today, not 500 naira. The plate of food that I told you about was 400 naira in my university, Babcock. As at that time, it's over 1,000 naira today.
Wow.
So the argument about 500 naira cannot hold water again. Maybe if you ask me now, maybe I will say an average Nigeria could feed maybe with about 1,500, which is what my driver told me he spends anytime we're in school. Okay. About 1,500 naira per meal. So the narrative has changed. Okay. Because nominal values have moved. But the concept of purchasing power parity still remains valid.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, our own Professor of Economics, Professor Segun Ajibola, for doing well so far regarding the topic, preventing the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. And let's quickly go on a short commercial. I'll be right back after this timeout. Please don't go away. Stay tuned and send in your questions.
As a finance professional in a disrupted business landscape, what does it take to be in demand? What does it take to attract great paying international roles? If you're an ICANN member, it'll just take one exam. That's all it takes to complete the globally recognized CIMA professional qualification and the internationally respected CGMA designation. As a CIMA member and a CGMA designation holder, employers will look at you as a finance professional, constantly acquiring new skills to add value to the business. That's why they'll be willing to pay premium to hire and retain you. If you have 5 years of relevant experience and are an ICANN member, you can directly sit for the final exam of the CIMA Professional Qualification, the Strategic Case Study exam. Start studying the CIMA Professional Qualification. Prepare to make an impact.
Yes, you are welcome back to Icon on Hair. And today we are discussing the topic preventing the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. And our guest on the show, Professor Segun Ajibola, the professor of economics at Babcock University, and also a past president of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, has been doing justice to the topic so far. Well, let's quickly look at our audience, those who have joined us on this program, and quickly um, uh, do some justice by making them known that we actually cite them. Without them joining the show, of course, the program is actually for our members. Tunde Awoyinfa, all the way from Lagos. Ikena Agochiku from Usuka in Enugu State. Omoba Kwemi from Abeokuta. Undam Loha Chidab, all the way from Jos. Lawal Idris is watching us from United Kingdom. Shoson Olu Soji from Ogun State. Abeokuta in particular. Bashir Ahmed from all the way from Kano. Fagbelate Mitope Adeniyi from Ibadan in Oyo State. John Hua all the way from Onitsha in Anambra State. We have Oladosu Taufik Babajide join us from Cardiff in United Kingdom, and many other people that have joined us from on this program from various places because of that major topic, and also because of the guests we have on the show, because we actually know that Icon on Air is your program, and it's majorly been put together for the members, for the student members, and also for the friends of the Institute, so that they can be educated on contemporary topics that we have for you. And now I have Prof back in the house, and I think we can move on with our questions. But once again, like we usually do it, please feel free to send in your questions. Send in your questions, and Professor Segun Ajibola is here to give response to your question. Prof, let's continue, sir. Are you there, Prof?
Yes, very much, yeah.
Okay. It's been rumored that some transactions within Nigeria are mainly negotiated on foreign currency or in foreign currency, especially dollars. What could be the reason or reasons for this insistence? What could cause a local currency like ours to be ignored in favor of a foreign currency like dollar, even in Nigeria here?
One of the major functions of any currency is to serve as a store of value. In other words, you want to preserve the value of your wealth. Unfortunately, there are those who feel they should lay their capitalizing on the loopholes within the system to do everything possible to preserve the value of their wealth. So they will want to do everything to dollarize their transactions, so that if there is either depreciation or devaluation in the local currency, they have hedged against that. They will not be affected. If anything, they will benefit from such devaluation or depreciation. It is that kind of feeling, that kind of sense of value proposition that creates that kind of attitude. And that is why when at times somebody that has no business in dollar transactions will take his naira, go outside there, mop up dollar, and go and save, either in his cabinet, either in safety tank or wherever, and leave it, waiting for the day the local currency will depreciate and the other one will appreciate. There is only one legal tender in Nigeria, and that is naira. It is outrightly illegal to transact in any other currency within Nigerian within this jurisdiction, within Nigerian borders, outrightly illegal. So there is no justification for it, either legal, either moral, either ethical. There is none. But you know, there is the tendency for man to want to confront the law. Man always looks for loopholes in law, and that is why we have the judicial system. That's why we have as many lawyers as possible prosecuting the same case, argue from different from different sides. So the tendency to conduct commercial transactions in dollar or any other foreign currency within Nigerian borders has no legal justification.
Okay.
Individuals are trying to protect their own personal interest by saying this local currency called Naira has lost one of its fundamental functions and attributes as a store of value. So let me no longer store my value in that local currency called Naira. Let me look for a currency that I am 95% sure will appreciate against that local currency. Then they go after dollar, after pound sterling. We cannot rationalize it here. There's no justification for it. It's outrightly illegal. In fact, if anything, it's an assault on our sovereignty as a country.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think I took that last word is an assault on her sovereignty. Still on that dollarization, it is believed in some quarters that many Nigerian leaders and elites have institutionalized the crave for foreign goods and services, foreign assets, and that will eventually generate the Nigerian economy into a dollarized economy. Do you agree with this, sir?
Maybe I don't understand the question. That they have done, is it within Nigeria or outside Nigeria?
Within Nigeria, some of Nigerian leaders and elites, they have cravings for foreign goods and services. Everything about them is procuring foreign goods, foreign services, and not procuring locally made goods. And it is believed that this could possibly also degenerate the Nigerian economy into a dollarized economy. Do you agree with this belief, sir?
It should not. It should not. It will have the right policy stance. You see, this is the problem. If we have a permissive environment where anything goes, you can do anything and go away with it, then what you are saying will hold water. For example, what is our trade policy regarding certain items in this environment? What is our policy as a country regarding goods of ostentation? I talked about consumption habit the other time. What's our policy? What's our stand as a country on some of these things? So we are running a permissive environment where individuals can still legally import toothpick, import perfume, import water, import textiles, import drinks, despite the fact that local production is begging for attention. That is not the fault of those people. It's the fault of policymakers and policy executors. What has India has 1.3 billion human beings. And India came out with a policy that if Indians cannot feed themselves, let India go hungry. Indians went to farm. Today, India exports food to Nigeria, and they are feeding 1.3 billion human beings. So it's our permissive style in terms of policy making and policy implementation and the control system that allows the few, maybe less than 5% of our population, to hold everybody to ransom. And perhaps that explains again the reason why rules and regulations against some of these things don't spray Naira in parties. Don't spend dollar. Don't collect dollar as rent. Don't spend dollar in malls and so on. That's why nobody is taking them serious, because they know that nothing will come out of it. Because with a due respect, maybe the makers of the rules are also the breakers. So we have a permissive environment. What you have said will hold water. But if we have an environment where we are dogged, where we are prepared to confront our challenges, where we are prepared to disallow untoward practices, it shouldn't hold water.
Okay.
We should be able to maintain our stand. In fact, it's a moral duty that we don't allow some of these things to happen. And we impose maximum sanctions. Whenever we see those infractions, people spending dollar, people dollarizing transactions, collecting dollars, rent, and so on and so forth. But how many of such cases have we taken up? How many of such cases have we prosecuted as a country since those laws were made? Those are the loopholes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. I must indeed appreciate your energy and your assertion regarding the responses you give on the questions. Now let's talk about Bureau de Change, BDCs. As a professor of economics and someone who is widely traveled, give us your unbiased assessment of the practice and relevance of BDCs in Nigeria in comparison to other countries or jurisdictions that you have been to. Briefly, sir.
BDCs in Nigeria is a drain pipe. First of all, Central Bank of Nigeria has responsibility for foreign exchange management. And there are 4 things that go along with that foreign exchange management. Number 1, determination of the exchange rate. Number 2, management of foreign exchange reserves. Number 3, looking at what are the authorized uses. What can you use Nigerian foreign exchange for? Number 4, who are the authorized dealers? Is that number 4 that brought about Bureau de Change operation? You see, in other countries that we've all visited, you see Bureau de Change operating with finesse, with dignity, with integrity, under no rules and regulations. Come back home. If you ask, how can a country like Nigeria open our eyes to license 5,000 plus Bureau de Change companies? To me, it is like settling the boys. It's another form of economic rent, because you license this Bureau de Change and you start giving them dollar. At times I laugh when I see some of our rules and regulations. Central Bank said some months back, they won't prop Naira. Let Naira have a fair value because it's floated. Why do you turn to start allocating dollar to Bureau de Change? If I may ask, has Central Bank the capacity to monitor and supervise Bureau de Change operators? How many of them can they visit in a year? So if you ask them, take dollar at this rate, sell at this rate, do you have the capacity to go and monitor what they are doing? To monitor compliance? These are the gaps. I am not sure Central Bank is adequately equipped to monitor effectively commercial banks, merchant banks, and microfinance banks in Nigeria today. Talk less of a Bureau de Change. So the Bureau de Change, they just say anything goes. That's why some of them will even play the role of a commercial bank in terms of volume of transactions they are handling. That's why they will take maybe dollar at 500, 600 in those days and go and sell at 900. Okay. Because nobody has the capacity to monitor what they are doing. So as far as I'm concerned, I understand the number has been reduced. I'm not even sure the regulators can monitor the activities of 1,000 Bureau de Change in this environment. So those who cannot monitor, you cannot control, you cannot enforce compliance, why giving them license to do what they like? So I think that is where the problem is. Our own style of Bureau de change operation in Nigeria is the exact opposite of everywhere that I've visited, including African countries. It's the exact opposite. They do what they like in this environment. So, and that is why I say, go and look at the list of those who want Bureau de change. So is it a way of settling the voice? It's worrisome.
Okay, thank you very much.
We understand that some operators own up to 20 licenses. One person.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Now we have just 4 or 5 minutes to end this segment of the show, but I have to take some questions from our audience. So I will only implore you to try and make the responses brief. I understand so well that for a professor to make a response brief is a big task. I'm giving you a major task, I understand, but I'm pleading in advance that try and give us a short response on these questions from our audience. Mr. Hebel is asking, why are currencies of countries in the global south not convertible? What can they do to make them convertible? Over to you, sir.
Well, convertibility of currency means that currency is accepted by the international community as a means of settlement. That's the meaning. When a currency is convertible, countries of the world are ready to accept that currency for settlement. So they can trade in that currency, they can be paid. It takes time. You need that strength. Even look at Chinese yuan. Up to today, still struggling to be a convertible currency. Talk less of UAE dirham, even though it's been stable for the past 20 years. They still not attain that status of convertibility. It takes time. It's the strength of your economy, the confidence in the economy, the acceptability, the volume of transactions that you pool with the rest of the world. And of course, your status in terms of creditworthiness. Then can you be referred to as a creditor nation or a debtor nation? So it's a package of factors that will determine whether or not your currency will be convertible. And by the time we look at all these factors, only very few countries in the of the world can meet them. That's why we have very few convertible currencies all over the world.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Another question here from Olanrewaju Abiodun. Olanrewaju Abiodun Media. Let's have the question from Olanrewaju Abiodun. But while that is being displayed, okay, he said, I have noticed that forex and import protectionism are one of the fundamental principles used by such countries as South Korea to develop in the past. Is this still feasible in today's world? This is bearing in mind that the protectionist policies of the past government failed to revitalize and upgrade local content.
Very good question. It's an elementary argument in economics, what we used to call infant industry argument. Let the young grow. So at times you build certain policies, either to restrict import or make imports so expensive in terms of tariff policies, custom duties, and co, so that local production can pick up and local producers will be competitive compared with the rest of the world. You see the West, represented by the institutions, World Bank, IMF, and co, they frown at restrictive trade policies. So they won't like to hear that. Definitely not. So if you are a candidate or you are a friend of the West, you will not be able to do that. And if you want to do that, you need extra discipline. Most of us here now, if we look at ourselves, how many of us are not on imported items? If we go to places, how many of us will not be looking for imported rice instead of Abakaliki rice? Our shoes, our household utensils. So it requires some paradigm shifts, discipline in terms of our consumption habits. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't come easy, no matter what. Somebody will be saying yes, somebody will be saying no. That is why restrictive policy is always very difficult to implement. And when you enforce it, you see smuggling or the antisocial behavior. So it's a country that is so determined, like India did. If India cannot feed itself, let India go hungry. If Indians cannot clothe themselves, let India go naked. And India funded textile. India has the largest textile industry in the world today because they use their local fabrics as official wear. Can we do all these things in Nigeria? Will you and me cooperate with government if they come out with this kind of policy? That's why restrictive policy is so difficult to implement. How many borders do you want to police? If we say we ban rice today. So these are the issues.
Okay. Two more questions to go, and our time is fast spent. Just yesterday, the federal government announced the setting up of 2 economic committees. Are these committees really necessary? Beyond addressing exchange rates, what exactly can these committees do to bring succor to Nigerians? Briefly, sir.
Members of the committee can attract foreign investment. Members of the committee those of them who are in business can double up their investment and productive capacity. They can also, with their closeness to government, be think tank for certain policy implementation. If you look at what we've had in the couple of months now, so many policies are coming out, especially on foreign exchange. At times, some of them contradictory. At times, some of them addressing one issue at the expense of some others. Some of them not taking into consideration the entire macroeconomic goals of a country. So sacrificing one in place of other. So we have a think tank that can look at all this based on their diverse experience. Maybe, I mark my word, I say maybe they can add value.
Okay. And lastly, for today, because I know we really have a lot of questions for you, but for want of time, assuming the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, calls you to briefly speak to his economic team on practical steps that should be taken to prevent the dollarization of the Nigerian economy. Prof, please tell our global viewers some of the points that you would raise with the team.
Number one, let's restore confidence in the Naira. And it will not come by any magic. Let's raise our productive capacity locally. Let's walk the talk when we say consume what you produce what you consume. Let's see what we can do to raise productive capacity, especially for essential items that we need in this country. And we can locally produce. We can produce rice. We can produce other food. We used to have industry producing textile. We used to have industry producing all sorts of drinks. Let's bring them back to life. Let's encourage inflow. Let's encourage domestic investment in those areas. By so doing, we will have reduced our reliance on the rest of the world. Then confidence will return to the economy. Number two, or maybe number three, let's see what we can do to encourage export of non-oil products. AfCFTA is South African Continental Free Trade Agreement. ECOWAS, most of the items, most of the contents of the ECOWAS Treaty of 1975 have not been effectively implemented. How can we make AfCFTA work to deepen trade within African continent? If we can do that, we can export so many things to African countries to generate more foreign exchange and reduce reliance on oil. Then let's see what we can do in terms of diversification of the economy. We have so many areas begging for attention. Even agriculture, that used to be the mainstay of our economy in the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. Agriculture is still begging for attention as of today. We have not given agriculture the right attention. I am a commercial farmer. I know what I'm going through. So let's bring back some of the sectors that can help prop up the strength of our local economy. There are so many, but for reason of time. Lastly, when there are rules and regulations, let's have the courage, the will, the political will, the economic will, the moral courage to implement them. If the law says you cannot transact any business in dollar, and some schools are still advertising for dollar school fees, some malls are still displaying their items in dollar, some landlords are still collecting rent in dollar. What have you done to enforce the provisions of the law against them?
Okay.
Like I said, the list is long, but these are some of the things I will, if that invitation comes, these are some of the things I will want to share with Mr. President directly.
Wow. Like someone said, yeah, you are indeed an authority. Prof, we want to say thank you so much for being part of this show today. Professor Segun Ajibola, Professor of Economics in Babcock University and President or past President of CIBN. We thank you for coming on the show, for coming to share your wealth of experience with our members and also friends of the Institute. Thank you so much for coming, Prof.
Thank you so much.
We also hope that when next we call on you, you would yield on our call and also come again on the show, because indeed we enjoyed all about the session. Thank you so much once again.
With all pleasure.
Thank you very much. Okay, quickly, our time is fast spent. Let me quickly take some announcements here. Our time is fast spent. The first one, MCPD training program, date April 3rd to 4th, 2024, and the sector is General Corporate Management Practice. The mode of the program is virtual, and the rate is 20,000 Naira. Also, we have the Public Finance Management webinar, topic, Building Economic Resilience, Tackling Debt, AI Innovations, and Governance Costs. The date is Friday, April 19th, 2024. Time is 10 a.m., and the fee is 9,000 Naira. This attracts 7.5 credit units. Please go ahead and register. Another MCDP training comes up on April 10 to 11. The fee is 20,000 Naira, and the mode is virtual. Also, you are invited to the maiden edition of ICANN Digital Service Hub, coming up on Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. The time is 11 a.m. Of course, it's coming up virtually via the Zoom application. The new date and venue for the 23rd Fellowship Conferment Program has been released. The date is Saturday, May 18th, 2024. The venue is Upper Point Event Center, Wilmot Road off Amado Bello Way, Victoria Island, Lagos. The time is 11 a.m. and the fee is 1,000 Naira. Go ahead and register if you are qualified for the forthcoming Fellowship Conferment Program. And lastly, for today, we have the 73rd Induction Program ceremony coming forth between May 20 and 21st, 2024. Induction fee is a token of 130,000 Naira. Registration closes on May 10, 2024. And also, the 9th ICANN Canada International Accountant Conference will be holding in Calgary in Canada between July 16th and July 20th. Go ahead and register for this conference. It promises to be great. My dear professional colleagues and viewers at large, and that is the show for today. You will agree with me, it's very interesting and it's worth the while. I want to say thank you for being part of this show today. Till I come your way again with another guest, another topical issue, please stay safe and stay sound. I'm Tosin Akinwumi saying thank you for watching and bye for now.